My name is Mark Vahradian. I graduated in 1989 with a BA in poli-sci, and I'm currently a film producer at Paramount Pictures. I never set out to be in the film business or in Hollywood in any way. Duke had very little in the way of media studies, but I didn't really know that because I wasn't intending to do any of that. I always wanted to study political science, and so that was sort of my focus. I was also pre-med. I didn't, there were a lot of things I thought I wanted to do. I graduated from Duke with a poli-sci degree thinking I would go into politics of some kind, domestic politics, and I went to law school immediately after that at UCLA, again thinking I would go somehow end up in Washington, D.C. So my studies at Duke didn't exactly, clue me into the joys of making media and all of that stuff. All of that is changing now, I think, at Duke. But once I got to LA for the first time, and I worked one summer at a law firm and found that I didn't love that. My next summer, I worked as an intern at Paramount Pictures, ironically, and I worked for a film producer, two film producers, and they introduced me to all of this, and I sort of fell in love with it. So I finished law school, I got my degree, I passed the bar for my parents mostly, but then I immediately took an assistant job in Hollywood, and not knowing anybody out here, I decided to work my way up. In Hollywood, anyone who wants to come here or does come here will find there is not really a path as in normal careers. In medical school, you go and you study medicine, and then you get a residency somewhere and you practice what you've learned, and you decide on where you're going to practice and what kind of medicine, or in the law, you go to a law firm or something. Out here, there's no organized method of training for what I do. The traditional route in Hollywood is to become an assistant to somebody who does something like what you would like to do. And that's the only thing I knew. So not knowing anybody, the internship ended up being essential. I didn't get paid. I stayed on for almost 2.5 years. I loved every second of it. I did get coffee. I did clean dishes. But I also got to watch and listen and be on phone calls and understand how this business worked. And for somebody to pay me to learn would have seemed like a crazy idea anyway. So I'm a big proponent of that. And becoming an assistant, which was a paid job, I became an assistant for the woman who had hired me to be her intern. So my one relationship in Hollywood paid off. And so, and this is a town that's all about relationships. So I didn't know anybody. I met one person. She gave me a job. I got a paying job. And I did that for about 1.5 years, and it was great because I didn't know anything. And I got to read screenplays and understand what the format of those things were, and get a sense of what the different jobs were in Hollywood, because there's a million of them, not just in film, but in every discipline, film, television, or now digital, or games, or any of that. So the assisting position also expanded my contacts, the people I knew. I still know all of the people I worked with when I was there, and this is a town and a business not unlike others, but probably more so, that's about relationships. So I started accumulating relationships, and I kept track of those people, and I always stayed in touch with them. I still stay in touch with my first boss. I still stay in touch with those two producers who hired me as their intern, who have gone on to fame and fortune and are gigantic producers now. So I became a CE at Disney. It was I was there for almost 10 years, and in those 10 years, I learned another great Hollywood lesson, which is I probably had 8 bosses in 10 years. And, that happens a lot out here. There's a lot of failure in Hollywood. A lot of movies don't work. Most of them don't work. And it's something you become comfortable with. But with that comes a lot of turnover of leadership. And you have to learn very quickly how to please a lot of different kinds of personalities. But I chose a path. There's a lot of different kinds of movies to make. When I was at Disney, I did comedies and I did action movies. I worked a lot with Jerry Bruckheimer. Worked my way up the ladder at Disney as an executive for many years, and until I got to a point where I decided I wanted to actually get closer to the making of the movie, because being an executive, is a great job, and it's a very secure job comparatively. It's not a lot of jobs in Hollywood are for hire jobs, meaning you get one job on one movie and then you got to go out and find another job. Being an executive is a steady job. You're working for a giant corporation. You get health insurance. You get a car stipend. You get, you have staff meetings. Everything's regular. It's the corporate version of being in Hollywood. It's the safest way to be in Hollywood, but you're not on the ground making the movies if that's what you're interested in. So you're not spending a whole lot of time on sets. And so after that, I went to Warner Brothers as a producer. I worked for Jerry Weintraub, who was a legend in the business, who at the time was doing the Ocean's 11, 12, 13, those movies. And I got to see, even though I'd done 10 years as an executive, I got to actually learn and figure out how a movie is really put together. If you're an executive sitting in an office, you can only influence a movie so much. And if you're sitting on a set, literally every second you're making a decision. You have a lot of responsibility on sets. So I did that for a number of years, and then I came to Paramount. And here I've spent time on a lot of different things, but more than anything, Transformers, which, by the time I came to Paramount, it was the era of the giant summer tentpole movie where studios were most interested in those kinds of movies. And so that's what I've spent most of my time and energy on. There's a lot of ways of succeeding in this town. I mean, the best advice I ever got was from the one of the producers I interned for was Mark Gordon, who went on to produce a lot of giant movies and a bunch of TV shows, Grey's Anatomy, things like that. And the thing he said to me when I was interning for him 20 years ago was, if you want to produce, produce. If you want to direct, direct. And if you want to write, write. But don't go and be a writer, but you really want to be a director, or an actor, but you really want to be a writer, or a executive, but you really want to produce. And I think that's good advice. I think I had to figure out a lot of people come out here with a better sense of what they want to do, but a lot of people change their minds along the way. But once you have a sense of what it is exactly that you're good at or that you enjoy, I think you have to just go for that thing. I mean, I see a lot of people who are assistants here in my office who really want to be writers, and it's hard to be in here from 9 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night and then go home and write. There are realities in life too. You have to make money. Most people do. So take it with a grain of salt. But I see a lot of people who always wanted to be directors who 20 years later are producers or executives, and you can tell that it's taken something out of them. And, the reality is in this business, nobody starts out good at what that thing is they want to do. I've seen writers who are terrible become really good writers. I've seen good writers become phenomenal writers. Same with directors, same with actors. And the sooner you get going on that career that you want for yourself, everything takes time. So the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to get there. The reason to come here is because you are willing to live and breathe and eat creativity and creating and building stuff. And, not many people get to make something, right? Anything from scratch. You start with nothing and you end up with something and you say, I did this I built. And it will live forever. And those are reasons to be here.